You're welcome to this live session. In this live session, we're going to be looking at some quantitative reasoning problem. Okay, so this is the first one, as you can see on the screen. We have the sample that is drawn in blue, and then there are two questions under the sample that you are meant to do. Now, you are going to study the sample and examine how each of the numbers on the diagram was gotten. So if you're able to determine how those numbers are gotten, you can then use the same method in getting each of those numbers in answering the questions that you have for number one and number two. Excuse me. Now there are blank spaces. Look at, for the first question, you have a blank space, and for the second one, you also have a blank space. So like I said before, study the sample, the sample one. There are two samples given. So from the sample, you can then attempt the two questions. Yeah. So look at this. Look at this one here. See, there's an empty space here. So which number will go in here? And this one here, which number will go in here? But you cannot be able to tell which number will go in here and here if you have not studied this sample very well. So study this sample and also this sample. Of course, once you've done that, you can now easily tell which number will go in here and in here. So I'm going to wait for a few minutes for you to tell me or determine which number will go into the empty spaces. But you must study the sample. Yes, you have to study the sample and this one here. Yeah, you have to. All right, let's have you get your answer. Let's have you go through it and get your answer. Don't forget to like this live. Thank you for the person who is here on the live. Like the live, support it, share with your friends and family, okay? And like I said, study the sample and let's have you drop your answer in the chat. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat. I'm looking at the chat. I want you to drop your answer in the chat. Yeah, drop your answer in the chat. Look at the sample. Okay, let me ask first of all, how was 37 gotten? This 37 here. Who can tell me? How was this 37 gotten? Or how was this 33 gotten? If you can tell how these two numbers were gotten, then you can easily answer this question, number one and number two. Okay, so quickly, how was 37 gotten and how was 33 gotten? Anybody? How was 37 gotten from this sample? Look at this sample. If you look at the sample, this one here, how was it gotten and how was this gotten? If you can tell how those numbers were gotten, then you can also answer questions one and two. Multiply the top and the bottom, then add them. Chris Show. Okay. He said multiply the top and multiply the bottom, and then you add them. Is anybody agreeing to what Chris Show said? Is anybody supporting what Chris Show said? Chris Show said add, multiply the top and then the bottom, then you add. Is he right? Yes, anybody in the chat, is he right? Don't forget to like. Don't forget to like. Keep liking. Keep tapping on your screen. Okay. Support by liking. Is Chris show like? Says Chris show like. Is Chris show right? He said multiply the top and multiply the bottom, then you add both of them together. So Chris show and anybody on this live session, let's come to question number one. What is going to be in here? So which number will go in here? Yeah, that will make this correct. Anybody? Okay. Okay. Anybody? Yeah. Anybody? How are you gonna get this empty space here? Anybody? How will you get the empty space here? It said zero. It said zero. Christian says zero. Okay. Do you agree with what he said? He said the number, if you're just joining us, you have to study the sample so that you can tell which number will go in here to make this correct. Look at the sample. The sample is here. Study these two sample, and then you can tell which number will go into this box. All right. So Ham Madev said zero. Okay, he says zero. Haha Mahadev says zero. So if you put zero here, excuse me, if you put zero here, 0 times 5 is zero. All right. And then 1 times 6 is 6. So 0 plus 6 is equal to what? 6. And that will be the 6 that we have here. Okay, that's correct. Christian, yes, you are right. Haha Mahadev, you are also correct. That's great. That's okay. What about number two? What about number two? If you are just joining us, we are trying to examine these samples, and we're going to be using these samples to solve question one and question two. Right? We have two samples and we have two questions. So study the sample. Ask yourself, how was this 37 gotten, or how was 33 gotten? If you can tell how these numbers were gotten, you can then use it to answer questions one and two. All right, this is quantitative reasoning. We're trying to sharpen our reasoning. We're trying to become better thinkers by solving problems like this. All right. So there will be more problems that will be coming your way that will just make you a better thinker and sharpen your thinking skills, thinking ability. So Ahmad, you said I solve. Okay, how are you going to get now? We have been able to do the first one. The first one we said is zero. Okay, if you agree with that, if you don't agree, give us the reason why you don't agree. But let's put zero here. So we're looking at number two now. We're looking at number two. What we go in here that will make this correct? Anybody? Again, look at the sample. The sample will be a guide for you. All right. Please let's like the live. Let's keep liking, keep tapping, like the live so other people can join us. Thank you for this. Thank you for liking. Thank you. Keep liking, keep liking. Okay. Is anybody going to tell us how to get? Oh, so Aham Mahadev said it's 43 over 120. Does anybody agree? Chris Show, are you still on the live session? Who else is here? Tell us, is he correct? I don't know that is a he or a she. Aham Mahadev said the answer is 43 over 120. He said what will be in here will be 43 over 120. But is he correct? Is he right? How are we going to be sure that he's right? Anybody want to prove that? Anybody want to quickly solve it and test if he's right? Correct or wrong? Yeah. Yeah. Is he correct or wrong? Yes. Anybody? Is he correct or wrong? Is he correct or wrong? Anybody going to say that? Okay. So if you are just joining us, what we have at the top, the one written in blue are the two samples. We're using the two samples to solve the two questions. As you can see, this is number one and this is number two. All right. So we are using these two samples at the top to solve this one and this one. Okay. We have a space here. We have another space here. So from what we've done so far, some of the two people on this course said the answer is 0 for this to be correct. So if you look at the sample critically, you will see that this is 5, this is 7, all right, this is 2, this is 1. So from what we agreed upon, we said if you multiply 5 by 7, you get 35. 35 plus, if you multiply 2 by 1, you will get 2. So when you say 35 plus 2, that will give you what? 37. And that's what we have here. Okay. The same thing to 9 times 2 is what? 18. Plus 3 times 5 is what? Is 15. When you add 18 plus 15, you're going to get what? 33. All right. So nobody's going to tell me if he's right or wrong. Okay, I have my head of service correct. Okay. But you're the one that provided the answer. Anyways, let's prove whether he's right or not. So like we said you add the 2 at the base. So you multiply the 2 at the base and at the top, then you add them together. So what does that mean? It means that 1 over 2 times 1 over 4 will be added to what we have at the top. Now let's make this one x. Let's make it x. So that will be 4 over 5 times x, which is also 4x over 5. Is that okay? And that's equal to what we have here, 53 over 40. So let's write 53 over 40. Okay, I'm trying to prove whether he's right or not. So if I multiply these two fractions, I'm going to get what? 1 over 8. Because 1 times 1 is 1 and 2 times 4 is 8. So 1 over 8 plus 4x over 5. And this is equal to what? 53 over 40. Is that okay? So let me move this fraction to the right hand side. I will have 4x over 5 is equal to what? 53 over 40 minus 1 over 8. All right, hope that makes sense. So we are going somewhere. So 4x over 5 is equal to what? What's the LCM of 40 and 8? That's what? 40. So 40 into 40 is what? 1 times 53 is 53. Minus 8 into 40 is 5. 5 times 1 is 5. And 4x over 5 will be equal to what? What's 53 minus 5? That's 48. So 48 over 40. But we have to cross multiply. Now see what I'm going to do here now. I'll use this 5 to multiply 48. And I can only bring down this, I can only use this 4 to multiply 40 and leave x here. Yes, you can do that actually. So let's do like that. I'm going to have x is equal to what? 48 times 5 over, I just brought 4 down. 40 over 5, 40 times 4. And x is equal to what? What's 48 times 5? Yes, who can tell me in the chat? What's 48 times 5? Anybody? Isn't that 240? So that's 240 over what's 40 times 4? That's 160. I can cancel out like this, right? X is equal to, what can divide 28 and 16? 8 can go. 8 into 24 is what? 3. 8 into 16 is what? 2. So what do we have? X is equal to 3 over 2. But was this what this person got? Was that what you got? Because for me, I got 3 over 2. So what could be wrong? Mhm. You said the answer is 43 over 120, but that's not what I got. Okay, so let's leave it like that and let's move on to the next question. Okay, if you have anything to say concerning what I've just done, do let me know in the chat. I'm looking at the chat. So look at the second sample, study the sample. Let's start first by looking at the sample, okay? Let's study the sample first of all. Thank you for liking. Let us study the sample first of all. I hope you're with me. So here's what you are going to do for me now. If you're on this live call, you are going to find for me how was this 48 gotten. Look at this. How was 48 gotten? How was 31 gotten? How was 26 gotten? We have three respective samples here, right? So how was 48 gotten, right? How was 31 gotten from here? And how was 26 gotten? Prof. Len. Oh, my very good friend, you are welcome. Prof. Len, good to have you here. Good to have you here, Prof. Len, the one and only Prof. You are welcome. So look at the questions and tell me how these numbers were gotten. 48 from this first one, 31 from the second one, right? And 26 from the last one. Tell me how the numbers were gotten. So once we are able to do that, we can now answer the questions, the two questions under, right? But let's first of all examine the sample, and from our examination, we can now use it to solve the two questions under. Let's go. Everybody, put on your thinking cap. Anybody? Anybody? Let's let's have your feedback in the chat. Yeah, who can tell me if you're on this call? How can tell me how was this gotten? How was 48 gotten? How was 31 gotten? How was 26 gotten? All right, let's examine the respective samples and use it to answer the question. Is that okay? If you're on this call, kindly like this live, support it by liking so more people can join us. Thank you. Like the live session. Let's have more people join us. Thank you. Like the live, like the live. Anybody? Anybody? Okay, if you have looked at the samples very well and you are very sure on how those numbers were gotten, like you can easily tell me how 48 was gotten, 31, 26, and each of these respective numbers. Can you now use that idea or that same information that you have now to do number one? So let's go to number one. Look at number one here. Everybody, what is going to be the answer? There's a question mark at the middle. All right. So who's going to tell us what is going to be the answer in that box there? Anybody? Yes, anybody? What's going to be the answer there? If you know, drop it in the chat. What's the answer? What's going to be the answer here? But again, you must use the sample to be able to answer that. Okay. The sample will be a guide for you. So look at the samples and use the sample to answer the question. So anybody, put it in the chat. How or what's going to be the answer here? If you know it, drop it in the chat. Okay, let me just guide you on how, yeah, on how to do this. All right. So I'm going to start with the samples because if you want to be able to solve questions one and two, you have to use the sample. All right. So let's examine the samples together. Let's start with the first one. See what we have. This is 6, this is 5, 6, and 3. Okay. But what we have at the middle is what? 48. This is 48. Now the question is, how are we going to get this 48? I was waiting for some of you to drop your answer in the chat. Maybe you know it, but you are just held back by whatever reason. So this is how this 48 can be gotten from the numbers around it. So if you check now, if you want to do 6 times 6, that's 36, right? You want to do 5 times 15. Sorry, 5 times 3, that's 15. But when you add 36 to 15, what are you going to get? Isn't that 51? But this is not 51. So which means that's not going to work. I hope I'm sure with this. Yeah, so that is not going to work, which means we must try something else. So how about we go sideways? Let's go sideways. So if I decide to do this one, this times this plus this times this, let's see if it will give us what we have at the middle, right? So 6 times 3 plus 6 times 5. Let's try this. What is 6 times 3? I hope you can even hear me. Yeah. 6 times 3 is what? 18. 6 times 5 is what? 30. And what's 18 plus 30? That's what? 48, which is what we have here. But see, if you try out the sample, don't just, because it works here, don't just end it here and quickly go to the questions. You have to look at the other samples as well. All right. So let's go to the second sample and let's test it if it's still going to give us the same thing as we did when we looked at the first one. Okay. So let's use the other one. So we do 4 times 4. I'm using this one. 4 times 4, that's what? 16. Plus 3 times 5 is what? 15. What is 16 plus 15? Isn't that 31? Which is what we have here. So it worked for that. But we cannot just stop there. Let's also look at the third sample to be sure that everything is in order. So let's do 4 times 5, that's 20, plus 2 times 3 is what? 6, which is 26. And that's what we have here. Correct. So it's going to work. Now, can anybody tell us what is going to be the answer for number 1? I haven't looked at all the samples now. Can anybody tell us what's going to be here? There's a question mark here. What's going to be the answer then? Anybody? Chat. Drop it in the chat. Drop it. Okay, without wasting time, I want us to answer the question. Since nobody's going to drop the answer in the chat, let's do it together. So for this one, like I did before, I did 4 times 5, 20, plus 2 times 3, 6. So 20 plus 6 is 26. And I did the same thing for the other samples. So do the same thing here. For us to get what's going to be at the middle, you're going to do 5 times 3 plus 7 times 4. Are you seeing that? Oh, yes. What's 5 times 3? That's 15. And 15 plus 28, because 7 times 4 is 28. So what is 15 plus 28? That's 40 what? 43. Isn't that 43? Yes, it is. So I've done the first one. Can anybody try to tell us what the second would be? So what's going to be the second one? Anybody? Number 2. We want to get this one here. So what's going to be here? What's going to be here? What's going to be here? Still using the same sample that we had before. Okay? Anybody? Okay, Hagos said it's 38. Okay, Hagos said it's 38. Are you sure it's 38? Hagos, are you sure it's 38? Have you looked at the sample very well? Have you looked at the sample? The sample would be a guide for you. All right. So let me just quickly guide you. This is how it works. You do 3 times 2 plus 3 times this empty space here. Then you will equate it to 48. That's how it works. Let me say it again. You do 3 times 2. That's either the left, multiply the left plus multiply the right, or multiply the right plus multiply the left. Anyone's going to work. Okay. So who's going to tell us? I don't think it's 38. I don't think it's 38. It can't be 38. How goes? You want to try again? So multiply 3 times 2 and add it to 3 times this empty space. Then you equate it to 48. So who's going to help us with that? Anybody? Anybody? Okay, let me give you a guide. So it's going to be 3 times 2. What's this? It's going to be 3 times 2. This one here. So you can do 3 times 2 plus what you have on this one. 3 times. Let's call this question mark x. So 3 times x. Or let's say y. Let's call it y. And equate this to what? 48. You see that? Okay, let me leave it like this. Can anybody now help us out with the working? Work it out and get me the value of y. Anybody in the chat? Get the value of y. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, without wasting time, let's do this together. So 3 times 2, that's 6, plus 3y. 3 times y is 3y, is equal to 48. I want to subtract 6 from both sides. And you have 3y is equal to, what's 48 minus 6? That's 40, isn't that? So you divide both sides by 3. So you can get the value of y. And then y is equal, what's 42 divided by 3? Isn't that 14? So yes, what we go into the empty space is going to be what? 14. Now you can even decide to try this out on your own just to be sure that, well, if we say it's 14, then we must also get what we have at the middle, 48. So let's try this. 3 times 2, that's 6. 6 plus 3 times 14 is what? 42. So what's 6 plus 42? Isn't that 48? So yes, it worked. It worked. It worked. Please, let's like the life. Support this life by liking it. Let's like the life. Let's like the life. So let's go to the next sample. Oh yes, this one is quite interesting. So can anybody look at the sample and tell me how each of these numbers or any of the numbers was gotten? Maybe you want to tell me how 6 was gotten, or how 9 was gotten, or 3 or 2. Same for this other one. You can just look at it and tell me, okay, the first one, this was how it was gotten. 3 times 2 is 6. And try, you must also try it for the others if it will work. All right. Then once you have confirmed, you can now tell me what you observe. So if you have done that, let's have your feedback in the chat. All right. Go ahead and do that. We are waiting for you. So if you're just coming in here, we're trying to examine this sample 3. We've done 2 samples already and we've answered the questions under. So here we're trying to see how, if you know how maybe 2 was gotten, if you check the first one, you have 2693. How was 2 gotten? Or even how was 6 gotten, or 9? Test it for the other samples. Once you have done, once we are done with that, we can now go to question 1 and 2 and use it to answer. In fact, there are even 4 questions under here. So we're going to be having an interesting time answering these questions. So if you're on the call, if you're on the live chat, on the live session, tell me how these any of these numbers was gotten. Okay, just tell me how any of them was gotten, and let's have our discussion in the chat. Okay, so let's look at the samples together and let's examine how each of these numbers was gotten. All right, are you all ready? Let's do this together. So see this. This is 3, this is 2. 3 times 2 won't it give you 6? Now, like I told you, if you test it for one, you must test it for the others. You cannot just test for one and leave it like that. You must test for the others as well. So let's do 1 times 7. What would that be? That's 7. You see that? It worked there. Let's try the last sample. 2 times 7 is what? 14. So it also worked there. So which means if I want to get 6 or 7, excuse me, 6 or 7, I have to multiply. Or even 14, I have to multiply 2 times 7. Is that okay? So let's go back and test that out. Now, what about 9? 6 plus 3, isn't it 9? Yes, it is. 7 plus 1, isn't it 8? Yes, it is. 14 plus 2, isn't it 16? Yes, it is. So it worked there. Okay, I just realized that I have been muted. Anyways, I've not really done anything different. So I did 4 plus 20. That gave me 24. Then here I did, to get this 3 here, I asked myself, what will I use to multiply 7 to give me 21? That happens to be 3. So that's how I got this 3 here. So we're now looking at number 3. Remember, if you multiply, see, 4 times 5 is 20. 3 times 7 is what? 21. So how do we get this question mark here? 5 times 3. This 5 times 3 is what? 15. So this one is what? 15. All right. So we've answered that one. Let's come to number 4 now. Number 4. Remember, we said this times this will give us this. So what will you multiply by 13 to give you 13? Isn't that 1? So this right here is what? 1. And that's your answer. Okay, so don't worry, I'll be doing more of this, but I'm also considering moving on to SORTS, SURDS. For those of you who are preparing for your final exams and you want to look at SORTS, I will be considering a lecture series on SORTS very soon. I might even start today, but hopefully I'll start tomorrow. Anyways, if you want to be aware when I go live or what topic I'll be considering on live, you can join my WhatsApp community. You can join my Telegram channel. The link is on my bio. Go there, click on it, and you will be redirected to my WhatsApp group or my Telegram channel. Is that okay? Beautiful. So we're going to be doing a mix of math topics and also quantitative reasoning like this. All right. Word problems and the likes. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be cool. So do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel for you to get updates when I come live or when I post new videos. I hope you enjoyed this session. Hope to see you in the next one. It's bye for now.